Um, I want to talk about the controversy around the video game Stellar Blade. As you may have seen on Twitter and many other social media platforms, such as YouTube, there's this South Korean game called Stellar Blade, and there has been a lot of critiques against it, primarily about the protagonist, a female of this game who is too good looking, and these critiques claim that she doesn't look real enough. She looks too good or too sexy to be real, and that is problematic. And the counter arguments, the defenders of this game have been saying she actually is real. She is based on a female model, a real woman, and the developer of this game, namely Shift Up, it's a South Korean uh, gaming studio, actually has posted a picture on Twitter where the female model being photographed for the protagonist to indicate to response to the critiques and to indicate that the protagonist is actually based on a real woman. And I think a lot of these defenders' arguments are quite effective, but I think they're missing somewhat the point by focusing too much on proving the realism of this protagonist. Because, in my opinion, the focus should never have been whether she's actually realistic or not. Specifically, if she's too unrealistically, good looking. But rather, as defenders, you might want to ask, what is wrong with featuring an unrealistically looking female, an unrealistically good looking female in a video game? Do gamers not have a right to practice and manifest their fantasies in a video game? And if the developers want to cave in to that specific fantasy, they should have every freedom, every right to, or the freedom to do so. And in my opinion, the support for the game or the protagonist, her name is Eve, by the way, should never be solely based on her realism, but rather it should be rooted in the principle that game developers and players alike have the liberty to explore and practice and manifest their fantasies in the virtual world, which is what video games are about. Why should a female character in a video game be bound by the constraints of the real life? Why can't she embody the epitome of beauty and allure, even if it's unrealistic, even if it means venturing into the virtual world, the fantasy world? Gaming, after all, is a form of escapism, a chance for players to immerse themselves in the world that they can never experience in real life. The critiques, such as she's not real, or real women don't look like that, is never a good argument against the game in the first place, as the point of playing video game is never about being realistic. It has always been about experiencing and realizing fantasies that are impossible in real life for either fun or temporary escapism. It has never been about being realistic. You don't play Grand Theft Auto to learn about the rules of traffic, to train to get your driver license. Rather, you play it to do things you cannot do in real life. You do it, people shoot, people rob and fly fighting jets, drive tanks. And that is okay. As long as you don't do those things in real life, you are a good person. I mean, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. And a very funny thing is, if you look at the real women, okay, in a lot of those modern games where I guess they are supposed to be realistic, those real women don't look realistic either. It's just unrealistic to the other end, the ugly end. I mean, you can think about a bunch of examples. You don't need me to remind you of them. And those are obviously decisions of the developers. Now, the same people, including some of the developers on the producing side of the video game community, especially some of the developers on the producing side, who yell and complain about how Eve is too sexy or is too good looking, is too unrealistic, might cheer for those unrealistically ugly females in those games, in those modern games. And I think it's very telling about the nature of these people, or the real intention of these people. They have no problem with unrealism as long as it fits their fantasy, it fits their expectations. They have a problem with beauty, and more specifically, the feminine beauty. And I think as players, we need to stop tolerating them for that bad faith.